Well, I think we're holding up. I think we were on the best year in our history. So as much as that's difficult to see that momentum slide and fade away, it was at any point in our history, it was the most advantageous time for something like this to happen. So we basically shut things up. We currently have 954 wonderful people on temporary emergency leave. And then we have approximately 65 managers, leaders, and headquarters staff that are currently working at 70% of their total at this point, in 3.5 days a week. We oversee the operation of Wildcraft, the Bauer Kitchen, Bauer Bakery, Beer Town in Waterloo, in London, in Cambridge, in Guelph, in Oakville, and Burlington, Sociable in Brantford, and we are affiliated also with the Charcoal Steakhouse, Dell's, Martini's, and Moose Winooski's in Kitchener and Barrie. And we also currently have 2 restaurants being built, one in Barrie and one downtown Toronto, and so those are currently under construction. So we created fanning out systems. We've tried to really highlight the service to our team. So when we actually closed up voluntarily the day before it was mandated. By doing that, we knew that we would give our team a head start to get on Service Canada websites, to create accounts, to get ahead of the queue when it came to, at that point, EI. Now it's turned into the CERB. And so right away we had memos done. We had how-to, here's where you launch. We had everybody's records of employments out to them within 48 hours to make sure that they had everything that they needed. Our people person has done an absolutely incredible, extraordinary job of communicating, fielding questions, getting on the phone with these people. In the initial days, it was 15, 20 phone calls a day from team members, and then compiling frequently asked questions and re-upping on those instructions and directions. We've been trying to provide our team with mental health resources, budgeting tools, complete accessibility as far as when we hear about new incentives that maybe the federal or provincial governments are putting out as far as childcare incentives, sharing them with the team. This may or may not be applicable to you. So we're just trying to do everything we can to provide for their mental, physical, and emotional well-being. On top of that, we started a program where, because we have all of our managers in place, we have a complete fan-out system where we attempt to get a hold of, and are largely successful, all those people that are currently on leave, and just talk with them every week. So we wanted to, have questions. How are you holding up? How are you feeling about things? You doing okay financially? You got enough food to eat? Have you been talking to anybody else from the company? Is there anybody you're concerned about? And so we're using those systems, taking notes, trying to leave it largely conversational. But some of those calls where I think you can imagine, our team goes, do they really want to hear from us every week, really? And then they get on the phone calls and team members are saying things like, oh, I look forward to your call now. I see your name come up on the call identifier, and then I look forward to that. Some of the calls are lasting a half an hour to an hour because they just want to be engaged, and people are very isolated. On one occasion we had somebody say, I'm just lonely, and we had the manager said, well, I'm at the restaurant. If you want to come down and we can sit at the other side of the bar, we can have a coffee and talk. And they talked for an hour, and then the person went home and wrote a beautiful email about, thank you so much for being there for me. We've had, team members are struggling, and someone drops off a whole tray of, lasagna on their front step. And I think what's happened with that is the communication. And so we start on Monday morning, our exec meeting starts by Zoom. And the first question, we go around and say, how are the people checks everywhere? What kind of feedback do we get? Are there any concerns? We talk about any new resources coming up. And so that's been really a focus to keep those lines of communication opening. We've started doing CG, or charcoal group family dinners, on Friday night. So if we can't be together, let's try and cook the same thing. So 2 weeks ago it was the best burger. This past week it was tacos, and everyone does it on social media and hashtags, and they, so we see a really large amount of engagement through social media, where people are saying, can't be with my charcoal family, so I'm cooking like everybody else today. And so we've been doing a lot of things, and then you see the team members doing it for each other. So I've seen care packages going around. Of course, there's team members who have graduated, and 20 other team members from that restaurant will do videos saying congratulations, and they'll put it to music, and literally, it's a tearjerker. We had a team member 2 weeks ago who had a wedding planned, and obviously had to put that on the back burner. And so we made a cake and sent champagne over, and said, you can celebrate regardless. And so we're seeing lots of those opportunities, and they really kind of warm your heart at a time when, it's kind of a scary time for a lot of people. So that's been a huge focus of ours, and so far we've gotten great feedback, and we've seen other people carrying it forward. I think we're probably ahead of the game. I think the biggest questions, my understanding is, as an example, this morning in Alberta, they said restaurants can open on Thursday. And so, that's 48 hours notice, which is pretty tough. If you're creating a lot of food from scratch and you need to bring in prep and do base recipes, base sauces, and that type of thing, 48 hours, we're probably not that prepared. I would say we could be completely open in 96 hours is kind of where we're at. A lot of that has to come down to we're carefully monitoring the various standards that are coming down in other jurisdictions. But there's still a lot of assumptions being made, and what's the best guess? Are they going to say 50% occupancy? Are they going to say 25? Are they going to say 60? Are they going to say groups no larger than 10? And what we've seen in a lot of other places, temperature checks on staff, temperature checks on guests, plexiglass in a lot of different places. You can't sit at a bar. You can sit at a bar. So there's so many different versions of that. I thought that what came out, in Alberta today was quite reasonable. I thought it was a good approach. It's basically 50%. Groups are limited to 15 people. There is no temperature checks, which I think, that one scares me greatly. With the respect of, you have somebody walking in your front door and you're going to aim a little target at their forehead. And I've actually asked health professionals, what is the right range? Well, it kind of depends. And a doctor says to me, well, how am I supposed to expect an 18 or 19-year-old host to know that? And how do you get into a conversation like that with a guest? I actually had the health professional say, a woman going through menopause, oh, how am I going to have that conversation at the front door of my restaurant? By chance, ma'am. And the notion that people can be asymptomatic for 10 days, but still carry it, kind of says the temperature checks are not the best way to go about these things. And to some degree, you hope that political solutions are not being offered in place of really functional solutions. And so what was offered today in Alberta was uplifting to a certain degree. It gives us a little bit of an idea of what we can expect. And so I think we're planning aggressively now to be prepared for that 96-hour kind of approach. Yeah, we have one restaurant that's doing takeout right now. You'd love, I think as much from my perspective, I would love for everybody just to get out and support local restaurants as much as possible. Get a good meal for a fair value and come out and enjoy yourselves. Asking any more than that at this point, I think, is a little bit oblivious to everybody else's struggles as well. And, everyone's going to have their own stuff. Have they been laid off? Are they going through a financial crunch period? So I think everyone has to be responsible. If they can get out and support people, that's a wonderful thing. We certainly value it and appreciate it. I think, but that's, to me, that's a chicken and egg kind of thing. We have to give them a reason to. We have to make them feel safe when they come out. We have to have best practices in place, and we have to give them a great experience that they want to repeat and make them feel comfortable. And so, I think that's a two-way street, but hopefully people get out and ask us and give us the opportunity. And we've had a lot of people reaching out saying, I'll be the first at the door. And that's exciting. And that's positive for us.